we are governed in the Air Force, and I guess the other services, by regulations that are written for weapons systems, right? And so, Athotech, if we have a big IT system, is we're your test organization. Oh, and here's our process. Right there. We're like, oh no, we're doing Agile. We need you guys to be part of the, no. Here's our test organization. Here's our process. We'll test it. It takes us a year after you get in deployment, and we'll give you a feasibility test. So that's quite a challenge for us because we don't control that in trying to get to the. And then the last one really is change management. They don't want to pay for change management. When I say they, the customer doesn't want to pay for change management, but to me, that's the most important thing. Because you can deliver a product that works, but if it works differently than the blue screen that they used to have, and I just like the way I can click on this, and now I don't want to have to learn that. I'm 2 years away from retirement. Just let me slide on in. Right? And the real successes are the ones that take the time to do change management. And my experience is that the Air Force, as a rule, doesn't want to pay for change management. They're like, we'll just train a trainer. Just train a trainer. And it's a train wreck, you know.
The most successful program that I've worked on in my time is those that allow that month for change management. Right. Where you get everybody onto the same. It doesn't have to be a month, but it was a large-scale project. It was a $600 million project, so it took a month to get to all the stakeholders in that particular case.
Let's talk, because if you get it done in a month,
that would be
well, I will say that the month sets the stage, but it's a continuous process across the bill, right?
we can't get off how to spell OCM in a month.
Again, that's where we got to have leadership buy-in and owner. I mean, I hear you. I hear it. We even hear it from our clients where they don't have support from the top. And it's where you got to send us into the top and say, if you want this, if you want the money you're spending today to produce something over here, you've got to do this over here. Because what I see a lot of times, if you don't do that here, you've wasted all that money because that project never gets an ATO. It never gets past the testing because nobody's on the same sheet of music. I'm probably preaching to the choir here.
No, I would say our boss agrees, you know, especially with organizational change management, because he's lived. He knows that just good programs die because they just don't get handled and presented properly and trained properly in the field. But I don't even know how to, because we have to have independent test organizations. I don't know how they do it in the industry, but you know, we have to have some, and they want to maintain their independence. Oh, you can't be influenced.
So where we're headed is to try and prove through automation, using the CI/CD pipeline with the proper tooling in there, that we've got enough test discipline within automation of tests to cover. Can't replace everything, but we have some folks that are a checklist-based mentality, right? If I don't see it, touch it, prove it, or know it worked, I can't trust the machine did it right.
So yeah, I would, you know, so you're correct that the organizational change management is the hardest part, and so I would say that probably the most bureaucratic organization that I've worked with was the VA, and I remember we were brought in there because they had 40 some odd mobile apps that they had been trying to launch for about 7 years, and they only had 4 in production. And so, you know, long story short is the lady who ran the NASA program, she became the CISO over there, and then she became in charge of cloud, and then she brought us over to kind of help. And I distinctly remember that because we were dusting off an old mobile program that hadn't been touched for 2 years. And literally all we were supposed to do is like, let's update all the libraries so that they're with the new TRM, and then we need to launch this thing, right? And remember, this was March. So I was like, okay, should be code complete by June. I figure we'll launch it by September. And they started laughing at me. And they're like, oh no. Right? They're like, no, if you're code complete, it's probably 6 to 8 months before you go to prod. And I'm like, but then all the technologies change.
Welcome to our nightmare.
Yes.
So it took us, I feel bad admitting it, but it took us about 2 years to change that culture. They have IVND, you know, where they have to do like literally, like I'm like, everything is in Jira. Nope, I need my spreadsheet with the list of all the steps or whatever. So, so the first thing was getting them into the CI/CD pipeline where we're like, look, here's the deal. We need to be able to push to prod every 2 weeks. Doesn't mean you're going to make it available, but the CI/CD pipeline should demonstrate that technically I can push the code to prod. Whether or not you make it available, whether or not it goes through testing, whether or not like the IVNV is bought off on it, whether or not security, whether or not privacy, whether, you know, like all these 20 some odd gates that you have to get through, whether or not they've approved it, that's not our worry initially, right? Initially is we just have to prove out this, like you said, the CI/CD pipeline. And you see the dashboard, and you got the sonar cube, and you have, you know, like all this stuff is there. Like at any point in time, you can look at the artifacts to show that we've had this discipline, right? And so it took us the 2 years to demonstrate that, hey, like if we've automated all of this, right? Like everything's A's. I've got code coverage. I have, you know.
That's a culture shift, though.
Right.
I mean, that's basically what you're talking about is you're proving to them that it's safe to change
That's
their
correct.
perspective.
That's the continual change.
Right.
You know,
But
you
it
have
did
that
take
meeting up
2
front, you
years,
continue
and
to
it
do
did take a lot of management support.
And that's what we're in, oxhole,
Right.
oxhole right now.
And we're
Such
right
that-
outside of Washington, so if you need a headquarters, put us there.
But they did. So they did get down to where ticket by ticket. So now it's in Jira. It's like, hey, here's the original story, right? I'm delivering an epic. Here's the original story for that epic. Here's the acceptance test, right? In the ticket, right? And here's the feature branch. So you can see that, right? And everything is there. And everybody loves it now because at any given point in time, like over the cross of the 40 apps, they can see it on a graph. Like who's where, who's an A, who's a C code coverage, host deploying, all that kind of stuff, whatever. But it did take 2 years to transform that. And they were already mid-flight, you know. And I'm not saying like, it's not 100%, you know, it still takes us a long time, you know, because we have to go through field tests and all this kind of stuff, whatever, but.
We were hoping that you had a silver bullet. That's our experience too. It just takes time to work.
It does take time. It does take time.
The bosses beat the bushes pretty hard to try and change that culture. It feels like he's a Don Quixote in the windmill, right?
Well,
He's the
that's
one
why
guy charging the hill.
what I said is like, what we've seen is you take a small project and you demonstrate it there, right? And then it's good.
Yep. Any other questions on this? This really tells you a little more about University of North America. Jill and of course her husband, it's a veteran-owned company. They do a lot for the community. They have another building there in DC that they're putting a military, I believe it's a TRICARE facility in, which is going to facilitate a whole bunch of less travel for folks once that's put in. I've got another handout, and I'll give it to Angela or someone that lists all in detail what we have in terms of contracts and stuff. The uniqueness about University of North America, and I can't reiterate this enough, is that we have partners, we've all partnered together to learn the best practices from each other across a myriad of federal agencies. We even have faculty, we have many faculty members that are working in federal agencies as contractors, as federal employees. So we have this, and I'll talk about the HATS Center in a minute. We have this ability to incubate all that and make that work across multiple agencies. And it's a uniqueness, I believe, that University of North America brings to the table and sets us apart from others. Again, I'll talk more about, or we'll give you a handout on what the contracts are about. And if you have any questions, we can answer you via email or whatever, or we can let them read it. We can say a little
If you
more.
have them now, I can give
They're
them.
within these things right here. Well, while I'm talking, would you just pull that, those two sheets out, so we don't duplicate the effort for them? You know which one I'm talking about? That one that's front to back.
Right.
It's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just give us a little time.
Yes, sir. That's fine. The other thing I want to talk about is because we have all those partners, we have a unique way to get to it. I myself am an SDB, SDB OSB and a hub zone in DC. So that makes a contracting vehicle. We have a company that has CIOSP3, and we have others that have other vehicles. So there's a multitude of ways to get to us. And we are, and you, University of North America, we're working on other ways to get vehicles. So as we mature in the contracting process, that will get much better. I want to talk a little bit about our innovation center, and it's called the Hatch Center. But this is where we have a multitude of companies where Jill and Marty have allowed companies to come in that are starting up. One of the another unique thing about the University of North America. They come in and they incubate with all the other faculty and professors to help themselves grow. And I just want to read you a couple of examples of the type of companies that are coming in. We have a myriad of companies that go across the spectrum. Forstay is an online marketplace connecting students and interns with local hosts, room providers, and roommates near their college campuses. Today, they serve 255 campuses and more than 400,000 students. That started as a startup. They've now grown so large they've moved away from the incubation center. We still have input from them, but they're now standing up. Pixelwall Incorporated, a startup company that developed HD large screens LED for these convention centers. Say, well, why do we have that? We don't limit it to just IT. We limit it to the whole spectrum of somebody that's got something as a small business and wants to do a startup. The Minority Enterprise Alliance is a publication for small minority businesses who are federal contractors. They promote and build relationships for minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses. Another great group of folks. Complete Landscaping, a landscape company, a multi-million-dollar company that maintains grounds in our local area up there. They operate at field development offices out of our incubator center. It brings the best of academia, corporate, and government entities together for a safer tomorrow. I can't stress to you how much goes on in that incubation center where we come in, we bring a problem in. I may have a problem on a contract, I can bring it in, I can talk to Kelly, I can talk to Ken, I can talk to Jill. They may have a different approach that solves my problem. I don't know of anybody that shares that kind of information. Once you're on a contract, there's so many contractors in federal government scared that if I share with you, you're going to go get that. You're going to take my information and you're going to beat me on the next contract. That's why things don't get shared. That doesn't occur in our incubation center. We trust each other. We have a handshake NDA in place that we're not going to chase each other's work. We might chase it together because they're better at something that I don't, but we're better together. We are better together, and that's what we've realized, and that's what I believe Jill and Marty wanted, that we're better together, and we're doing great things in the center. We're young, and we take problems in, and we solve a lot of problems, and I believe it's a great place for entrepreneurialism. Next slide. Kelly, that's yours, buddy.
Yes. So, back to where our specialty and where I'm so excited about this partnership is, we talked about today the workforce, the agile workforce. And in my last 7 years of experience of developing the veteran workforce, we've got this vision of a national warrior workforce. And what I've seen and what we've really seen firsthand in the trenches, you take combat arms guys, Air Force security guys, etc., and they are a very talented, capable group of people that are constantly undersold and underemployed. And so, just to tell a little story, like not the depth of Bill's story, but my story of 2 years ago in building this warrior workforce, we had an opportunity to roll out the brand new 5G spectrum. So we bid it with this warrior workforce and this concept where we were going to put these new 5G links across the country. There was 3 spectrum holders nationwide, 1,000 total sites. Fortunately, unfortunately, we won all 3, and we had to do it in record time. And the way we did that is created this new model where we educated, trained at the same time as we deployed to this earn while you learn model. And by doing this, a light bulb went off because this is what the warriors of the future need. This is the best type of transition. I know personally, I transitioned from the military as an enlisted person back into college, and then as an officer back into grad school. And both times there was a sense of kind of loneliness and detachment, and there was an adjustment period. Also, the financial pressures of getting back to the workforce, and a lot of these kids come out of high school very capable, but they've spent the last 10 years traveling all over the world fighting a two-front global war, but they have this skill set that just has to be tapped, nurtured, and they have to make progress and have to show that they can get this path to degree. And so we do a pretty complete analysis where we basically have come up with this E3 model: engage, educate, and employ. So back to this project we did is we had to roll out 1,000 sites. And we stumbled upon, we had to find 1,000 entities across the US to agree to put this new 5G radio on their rooftop. And what we stumbled upon was the 20,000 VFWs, American Legions, and AMVETs across the country. So we basically touched and reached out to all of them. Some of them are just glorified bingo, cheap beer drinking halls. But we found the 300 best, and we've assembled a network of 300 community education and outreach centers. And we've contracted with them to be the community learning centers of the future. And now with the University of North America, this is a critical point where the transitioning veteran or underemployed veteran will come in for career guidance, video cyber classrooms, and educational assistance using both the GI Bill, voc rehab, workforce development, and just plain old scholarship or community-based funding to find their best career path. And in this process, in engage, educate, and employ, you'll be able to identify those folks that do have the aptitude to be in IT. And it would surprise you, because it is some of the 11 Bravos that were door kickers, but they love video games. And this is the closest thing they can have to a video game is a career in IT. So in discovering this, we go through this whole process where not only helping them how to get financially on track, emotionally on track, professionally on track, it's this discovery both for themselves and the organizations around them. And then this process we've developed with the University of North America is how do we get them on a career track, and how do we allow them to be getting their education while they're getting experience, while they're earning a living, and while they're getting a career path. And that's what's been amazing to see develop. And now we're full force with this this earn while you learn concept. And for me, it's a perfect fit. What you guys are asking, the modernization of the Air Force, the modernization, how you get in the future, and you get the future by listening to the next generation and understand we have a concept that we develop over time is meet them where they are and understand where they are, where they've been, and what do they need to be successful. And it becomes this really powerful thing. And just to close on some of the numbers that we've put in this infrastructure that's feeding into the University of North America now is that we touch 20,000 resumes or 20,000 transitioning underemployed veterans a month. Touch them through outreach, emails, etc. We do skills identification and identifying where they want to be, geographically where they want to live, where their career paths, if they don't know where their career paths is, help them get to their career paths. And then of that 20,000, we probably interview and talk to 1,000. And of those 1,000, we'll probably find 100 to 200 that are looking for education, looking for career pathing, transitioning, and the more opportunities we can find for them and get them into these programs. And where I think, and we were talking at lunch, my brother is the Dean of Students at Princeton. And so he's the old education model. I'm the new education model. We had an interesting Thanksgiving argument. Thank God it wasn't about Republican, Democrat. It's about old education and new education. And what I found is this, especially with the veteran community and other communities, if you have a hybrid model, if you have this living lab model where you're actually moving forward in your career, what you're getting that coveted certification and degrees and making progress in your career, but while you're learning and while you're earning while you're learning, you're getting a better, more robust experience, and you have that integration of being able to track effectively where you want to go. And you talk about agile, understanding agile and training them in certain philosophy and forward-looking technology and forward-looking processes as they're coming into the field, you can shape and accelerate, and it can be a force multiplier for both that individual and the organization they go to when they understand, because they've been doing both at the same time. They're not in this incubated 4-year cocoon that most of the transition veterans don't survive in, is they're in the career and in the learning environment at the same time. And I think that's what's really powerful. So, the concept here, and we'll talk more about workforce development, is we have this enormous untapped workforce, and we have this very unique model that can be very transformative. And it can help the organization, it can help the contractors as they go in, and we can supply, and we have this, utilization of the GI Bill, for the most part, is being underutilized because they're using it on pointless degrees, not getting the experience, and not getting that mid to high level range job and career path that they really need. And I find, lastly, I'll just end with this, is these guys and gals gravitate towards technical degrees. They gravitate towards, as I said before, about making a difference and being part of something bigger than themselves. And I'll close with this, is my wife and I have been heavily involved both on the nonprofit and the commercial side of this, is we can tell untold number of stories of someone that was a Walmart, someone who was 7-Eleven, someone who was a truck driver, someone who was a security guard, and everyone's patting themselves on the back and look how great we are, because that's a statistic, that's a number. We've employed a veteran. You haven't employed a veteran. You set them on a trajectory that isn't a fraction of where they can get to. So by doing something where you're getting them certifications, career pathing, and mentoring back to the culture in the organizations that you go to, they get somebody to mentor them in a way they mentor the person, and they start to have a career path, and that's that sense of purpose, and that's that resetting that sense of mission, and that's what's so powerful about this model. And we looked everywhere, and nobody is doing it, and you needed an innovative, flexible university where 3 CEOs that pretty accomplished see this as a future, and that's why we're so excited about this. So it is a very unique model, and is embedded already in the community. We have 300 points of presence to start to funnel these folks in, as well as relationships with 15 of the bases of the transition offices who get to them even before they get out. So that's what we're so excited about this. We'll talk more about workforce development, but I just want to highlight that slide.
Any other questions on this slide? Something that Kelly said, we had an interesting conversation over Thanksgiving as well in my family. See, my daughter went to Auburn. My youngest daughter went to Auburn. My oldest daughter went to Alabama. Generally, we don't have Thanksgiving together anymore because there's this thing called the Iron Bowl every year. I went to Alabama myself too, but it's a fun time when you can let it roll off your back. And some people can't, but the families figured that out. Last slide, please. I really want to take some time, one, to thank you for allowing us to come today. This is our last slide, so you can take a sigh of relief. We'll get off these acronyms and all these stories. But UNOA, again, is a unique institution, unlike any others. I happen to teach also for the University of Maryland, and they are nowhere close to what Jill and them have created in the University of North America. This collaborative incubator center that they put together, the Hatch Center, that allows Kelly and Ken and myself and others to come in and say, hey, this is a real problem. We can conquer this problem together. Alone, unlikely, but together we can. We've all had long-term histories, either in the military or military and the corporate world, and we now own our own companies. But we set that aside when we come in here, and it's all for the better of the good for the government, what we can provide to the government, and what we can do for the government to make our world safer. I don't think you'll find that creed in any other institution that walks through the door. I think we're different. We have a wide, diverse student population from across the world. And what they bring is, we got some third world countries, we got middle world countries, we got superpowers. And they all come in together and they learn from each other. And what they walk away with is a collaborative, innovative approach to solving problems, which I think is lacked in many of the countries across the world. We thank you for your time. We've got a late flight, so if there's nobody else, we'll be glad to take other questions. We look forward and hope that we can work with you in the future.
All right, thank you.